Welcome to the What a Play podcast. I'm your host, Jacob. Lucas could not be here this week because we're near the holidays. Lucas is busy trying to get some things done, so it would just be me again. Let's talk about... Normally when I do a show like this, I'm going to say recap. We haven't done that the last couple weeks. We are not going to do that once again. But I want to say this. So, next week's shows, we'll do that. We're going to do an NFL World stream or upload, whatever, on Monday, like we've always had. We won't do on Wednesday. We'll do the What a Play podcast on Friday. And so Monday's show will be a recap and a preview. So it might be a little longer, just to let you guys know of what's happening in the NFL. So just be aware of that. Now, let's first begin with what happened yesterday in the Broncos and Chargers game. It was a rarity. In the Chargers-Broncos matchup in SoFi, and the reason I worded it that was the fans, for whatever reason, don't like SoFi. I don't know why. In my mind, Chargers never should have left San Diego, but they did, and now no one wants to show up. Here's the thing. Before halftime, we saw something that many people don't know what it is. I'll explain the situation. 8 seconds left on the clock. The Broncos are punting the ball away. If the Chargers are lucky enough, they get maybe 2 seconds on this clock, and they're throwing a helmet. But wait. Something happened. Fair catch interference happened. Now, the clock had ran down to 0. There was nothing left. It was at 0. But because of fair catch interference, and you can't end a half on a penalty, you have to give them enough time down. So what happened was, the Chargers took advantage of this. They could either send their offense out, which they did before they ended up calling a timeout, or they could send the kicker out for a free kick. Now, to describe a free kick is actually kind of complicated. I'll try and keep it as condensed as possible. When you have a fair catch, whether there's a 1 second left on the clock or not, you can attempt a free kick. Because there was a free play, they could do this. What a free kick is, you can line up like it's a field goal. So you're lining up for a field goal, but it's like an old school kickoff. The rules have changed a little bit about this. You used to be able to do it off a tee. Now someone has to hold it. So the kicker and the holder can go out there, line up for a kick. They don't have to send out offensive linemen because the defense can't rush the kicker. He can just kick, and if he makes it, then it's 3 points, and if he doesn't, and say he misses it and lands in the end zone, it can be returned. Like a normal kickoff or a missed field goal. That's how that could happen. And you could see I don't want to say it was troubled look, but you could see that Jim Harbaugh didn't know the rule. And the officials are trying to explain to him, okay, you can send your kicker out for a free kick where you can get 3 points, or you can send your offense out and just for a helmet. But I don't think that was the confusion necessarily of that. I think it was, where does my kicker line up? Does he line up like a normal field goal where he has to line up about 10 yards difference? No. He lines up where the penalty yardage ends, which in this case would have been about a 57-yard field goal. So he lines up there, and there you go. Now, it's a strange rule. It's not a commonly used rule. And you say, Jacob, when's the last time you've seen this? Well, it started I saw it probably the first time I've actually seen it. this is the first time I watched it in game. First time I've seen it, though, was about 2 years ago in an international game. Rich Eisen was on the call, and Rich Eisen does a great job on those international games. Much respect for it. That's a very hard job to do, and to not do that on the regular, it's very, very difficult. And he knew the rule. If you can get a free kick, it's an unbelievable play that just doesn't happen very often. Now, they didn't make that kick, but that's the first time I saw it in my lifetime. But if you want to go back to the conversion, this was the first converted free kick since 1976. So, it was actually the Chargers in 1976. Dan Fouts was the quarterback. Dan Fouts worked for CBS for a very long time. Dan Fouts was the quarterback of, I believe, Eric Coryell was there at the time. And that was the last time it was kicked. I can't remember the actual kicker's name, but that was the last time it was converted. So, it's only converted, apparently, almost every 50 years. It's like this was like 48 years, but it's all pointed together. It was unbelievable. It really was. But it is a shocker if you don't know the exact rules. There it is. My microphone wasn't completely connected. Okay. So, that's essentially the rule. If you make it, it counts as 3 points. If you don't, you don't get anything. Which I still think was a big momentum shift in the game. They got 3 points. They made it from a 14-point deficit to an 11-point deficit. And in a game that had a lot of momentum shifts, that was one of the bigger ones. And that's what gave the Chargers, I think, some energy to enter the second half. They went down 2 touchdowns. They're down 11 points instead. So some energy was necessary. Also, no announcer has that off the top of their head. That was just something that happened. That someone really quickly researched at halftime to get all the answers. So to make the announcers actually be smarter than they actually are. I'm not saying that they're not smart. It's just you don't know everything. So you have to have someone to research. Or you do your own research. It is what it is. Okay. We've got everything. So, that's the free kick. Now let's go to the Michael Penix news. So, Michael Penix was named the starting quarterback. Oh, geez, we've lost internet. Okay. Hang on a second. I'll fix that. So, I'll just continue on about this Michael Penix news. So, Michael Penix there we go. I don't know how that happened, but my Wi-Fi turned off. Okay. So, Michael Penix was named the quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons on, I think it was Monday. So Michael Penix was named the quarterback after, actually it was Tuesday, my bad. We said it Wednesday, but it was Tuesday. And that started when the coach, Raheem Morris, said, we're evaluating our quarterback situation. And then Tuesday night made the switch. Kirk Cousins in the last 5 games has had 1 touchdown and either 8 or 9 interceptions. I can't remember the exact stat. But I can tell you this. That was bad from Kirk Cousins. And the thing was, they didn't want to put Michael Penix in right away. You just pay Kirk Cousins all this money. It was a big change. It was a big switch. It was something you didn't want to exactly have happen. But Michael Penix, who is also a lefty, so that is also a switch for these receivers in game. It will be interesting. But the Falcons, for the most of the year, have been winning their division. Now they're on the outside looking in. You've lost 4 of your last 5 and barely beat the Raiders with Desmond Ridder, your former quarterback. That was not good enough. You had to make a switch. It's that plain and simple. Will this plan pay off? Maybe. Or maybe it's just a little too late. Because right now, you're on the outside looking in. Tampa's got the division right now. They're 8-6, you're 7-7. You are tied with Arizona at 7-7. You're behind Seattle, and you're behind the last roster spot, which is Washington. They're at 9-5. You have a game ahead of Dallas because you beat them head to head. That's the difference. Otherwise, you'd be tied with them if they pull off an upset against Tampa. That's not good enough. Michael Penix has to be used. Plus, the games that you got the Giants. You could win that. You Panthers, maybe not. You got Saints, maybe not. You got to give it a shot, see what happens. And see if that's good enough to get you in. And if it's not, then maybe you should reevaluate Kirk Cousins in the offseason. Or shouldn't have rushed him so much to get back. Maybe both things could be true. Let me make sure I got this over here. Okay, yeah. Alright. Let's move on to the Lions. Lions, David Montgomery went and got a second opinion about his knee injury that he suffered. The update from Montgomery, I'm going to read it off my phone actually, is Lions optimistic running back can return for playoffs, avoid knee surgery. Montgomery suffered what was believed to be a torn MCL in Week 15 against the Buffalo Bills. But after Montgomery got a third opinion, so not even a second opinion, on his injury, there's reportedly optimism that he could return for the postseason. Montgomery spoke to several experts and is believed to have avoided a season-ending injury that would require surgery. If all goes well, he could potentially return at some point in the playoffs. Montgomery will rehab with that goal in mind. Montgomery has 87 carries on 775 yards, 12 touchdowns, 1 fumble. It continues on saying how good of a season that Montgomery has. This part I think is very important, actually, just now reading it. With the injuries piling up for Detroit's defense, it is most important that their offense to be efficient and explosive as ever. And that will be more difficult without Montgomery in the fold for the rest of the regular season. This has arguably been the Lions' franchise best season to date, but as we head into the final stretch, some of the wheels have been falling off. What had looked like the league's most complete team until very recently. Okay, I guess that's it. I don't know why they ended it like that, but so basically, David Montgomery is set to be back at some point in the playoffs if this opinion is indeed true. Which is very good news because the Lions do desperately need him. The man known as Knuckles and Sonic and Knuckles duo is very much he's a need. He's not a home run hitter, but he's the ground and pound guy. You have him out there. He makes plays. He makes it happen. That's who it should be. And having him out there or not having him out there is a big difference. So the hope is Montgomery can come back and potentially bring a Super Bowl to the city of Detroit. Now, moving on to the Dallas Cowboys, we have news of CeeDee Lamb. So CeeDee Lamb was an All-Pro, and they were talking about all the injuries of Dak Prescott, Zach Martin, all of it, and how they're 6-8. Despite all that, remains in the running for the second All-Pro selection. He has with both the third most catches, 94, and receiving yards of 1,089. And it continues on, says, all this, since he was drafted in the 2020 draft, has him in position to pass NFL all-time great and Hall of Famer Jerry Rice for the fourth most receiving yards in a player's first 5 years in the NFL. He just needs 131 yards in the final 3 games, something he is on pace to easily clear since Lamb is averaging 77 yards receiving a game. That's the 5th most in the league this season. It goes on and says, of all the wide receivers, most receiving yards in the season for the first 5 years have AJ Green, Julio Jones, CeeDee Lamb, Jerry Rice, Randy Moss, Torrey Holt, Justin Jefferson eclipses all of them. But the reason I wanted to bring this up is also CeeDee has a chance to also break a couple other records. He has a chance. He needs a couple more grabs as well for another record. So it's all very possible if CeeDee Lamb can just continue to do what he's been doing, which is being explosive and being on the verge of several milestones in what has been a forgotten, lost season. Now, I want to make sure I grab all this. So, we're going to talk, we said this on NFL World. Let me see if I can find it. Let's see if I can find it. Where are we? This happened this past week. Budda Baker signed a contract extension, 3 years contract. Let me see if I can find it real quick. I found it. Hang on. I want to see if I can put that light. Hopefully it didn't die. Oh, it didn't die. Okay, well, good. Beautiful. There you go. It didn't die. We're all set. So, here we go. We finally got it. Budda Baker signs his contract extension. It's a 3-year contract. Let me make sure I got all the numbers here. Making one of the highest paid guys, 3 years, $50 million extension. $30 million guaranteed. It goes on saying Baker was a second round pick in 2017. This new extension could have him, which runs through 2027, meaning he could retire in Arizona if he so chose to. Baker's not exactly what he once was, but he's a still really good player. He's still very smart. The injuries kind of slowed him down a little bit, but he makes plays, and that's what's important. That's the most important thing. Next up, we have. Let's do the Jets before we do the Campbell stuff, and then we'll hit the Week 16 preview. So, the Jets have been interviewing this whole week people for the open general manager position. They interviewed former Falcons GM Thomas Dimitroff. They've interviewed the former Panthers general manager. They've interviewed former Titans general managers. They've brought in all kinds of people. They've even brought in Louis Riddick. Jim Nagy is the most recent one that they are interviewing from the Bears. So they're bringing everybody just to see what could happen. And on NFL World, we said this. There's too many people in this kitchen. There's too many cooks in this kitchen. You have the Jets ownership. You have two GMs in Spielman and Tannenbaum that are giving their opinions. You got the CEO. You got all these people. There's too many cooks in this kitchen. We said this on Wednesday about the Lakers, when the Lakers had like 6 or 7 people going through this interview process to see who should be the GM for the Lakers. Coach K was giving input. It made no sense. It really didn't. None of these people have been a GM before, so why are they giving input? It makes no sense to anybody. The Jets are doing the same thing. Now let's finish off with the Devondre Campbell thing. So last week we said Devondre Campbell didn't want to play. Sunday, it was announced that Devondre Campbell, the 49ers were trying to suspend Devondre Campbell, but work with the NFL so they could suspend him longer than 8 games. And that there was a lot of red tape. Later on that night, and on Monday, the news broke Devondre Campbell suspended 3 games as the veteran refused to play. This is what happened. We had said it was Kyle Shanahan didn't want him on the sideline. That was actually not true. It was general manager John Lynch went down from his suite down to the field and said, why isn't Devondre going in after Dre? So let me explain what happened. Dre Greenlaw came back from an injury. Campbell, who took the spot of Greenlaw for the last however many weeks, now is being the second linebacker. He was the secondary to Dre Greenlaw. And that's not what Dre wanted. Dre wanted to play. Devondre didn't want that to happen. So instead, Devondre said, I'm not going. Dre got a little banged up. And Devondre said, well, I'm not going in no matter what. So John Lynch, who's very calm, but wasn't always that way as a player, who's known as Red 47 for a reason, that's who John Lynch turned into. And you knew that he wasn't going to play next week. For the rest of the year, you just didn't know how. But they worked with the NFL, they figured it out, and now Devondre Campbell is suspended for the rest of the year. It's also just not a good thing to bring onto a franchise you have a guy who doesn't want to play. Not because he doesn't feel like he fits, but because he was demoted. Now the guy who came back or took over that spot, he got hurt. Now you can go back in and you choose not to. Does not fit with what the 49ers want to do. Not one of the highest possible moments. Now, let's get into the Week 16 preview portion of this. Let's see what I can do. So, in the Week 16 preview, we have 2 games on Saturday. It first starts with the Chiefs and the Texans. Actually, opposite. Texans at Chiefs in Arrowhead. Chiefs are favored by 3.5. The over-under is 42. You know where I'm going with this. The Chiefs, for whatever reason, don't hit the over. I don't know why. They just don't. Last week, it was like 43. They only scored. The 2 teams scored 28. So if you're betting on this game, don't bet on the Chiefs. Bet on the under. Bet the under. But give me the Texans to find a way to win this game. I know Hollywood Brown's probably going to go in this game, but give me the Texans. They find a way to win in the blistering cold of in Arrowhead. So give me the Texans. They win, but it's going to be one of those weird games. 28-24. Next up, Pittsburgh at Baltimore. This is also on Saturday. Baltimore favored by 6.5. TJ Watt's iffy. We'll see how that shakes out. But the Steelers, for whatever reason, give Lamar Jackson fits. The Steelers are the boogeyman for Lamar Jackson. Don't know why, it just is. So, give me Pittsburgh. They're going to win this. They win this game in an ugly fashion, as most of these games are. 21-17, Pittsburgh. Next up, Lions at Bears. Bears getting plus 6.5. The Lions lost last week, and they were embarrassed. They're winning this game. There's just no doubt in my mind. They may get 48 by themselves. The Bears have not shown that they're good defensively since Eberflus left. They haven't shown they're good offensively. Give me the Lions. 48-6. Next up, we got Rams at Jets. Jets getting plus 3. Rams will beat the tar out of the Jets. Give me the Rams. 31-10. Next up, Philadelphia at Washington. Plus 3.5 for Washington. The last time these two teams played, it looked sluggish in the start, and then it was a complete. It went from jabs to slugfest, and the Eagles beat them in slugfest. So, give me the Eagles. I predict the same thing, but give me the Eagles to win this. 31-24. Next up, Patriots at Bills. Bills favored by 14. Minus 14 is a lot for a divisional game. Give me the Bills. The Patriots cover. 31-21. Bills. Next up, Niners at Dolphins. Dolphins favored by 1. The over-under is 45.5. This is in Miami. Give me the Dolphins. They find a way to win and knock San Francisco to the curb. And Mike McDaniel gets a game over his old mentor. The score being 28-24 Dolphins. Last game, Sunday Night Football. Tampa Bay at Dallas. Dallas get plus 4. The over-under is 48.5. I'm taking it till the wheels fall off, which could be this week and could be next week. Give me the Cowboys. They find a way to win this game. Dallas, great on the road, horrible at home. Tampa, great on the road. Give me Dallas. They find a way to win, keep their playoffs hopes alive as minimal as they are. Dallas wins a weird, very weird game. 27-24 Dallas. And that is it for the What I Play podcast. Let me know in the comments who you have winning this week. Also, who is the MVP in your eyes? For NFL World, I'm Jacob Hebert. And for the What I Play podcast, we will see you next week.